Good evening, I'm Keisha Butts with a CTV News update. About 42,000 Prince George's kids are heading back to school today for in-person learning. It's their first time in a classroom in more than a year. This was the scene at Glen Arden Woods Elementary as buses dropped students off this morning. They're here for phase 1 of hybrid learning. Students pre-K through 6th grade and high school seniors are resuming in-person learning 2 days a week. Phase 2 starts next week for kids 7th through 11th grades. Meantime, Tulip Grove Elementary was crowded with students and parents this morning eager for the first day of hybrid learning. CEO Dr. Monica Golden was also at the school to welcome everyone back.
They are so excited. I'm so excited. To get back to some sort of normalcy is just really cool to see and really excited, especially he's in kindergarten, so it's a big deal for us today, and so we're really pumped up about it.
Chelsea and Marty Mitten are dropping their kids off for their first day of school at Tulip Grove Elementary. She says the whole family is elated. Are you excited to come back
I'm
to school?
pumped and I'm really happy that we get to come back.
As students step off school buses or get dropped off at carpool, today marks the first day of hybrid learning. Students pre-K through 6th grade and high school seniors are returning for in-person learning 2 days a week.
I feel confident that we're safe enough to open for our students.
Monica Goldson, who visited Tulip Grove this morning, says about 30% of parents decided to bring their youngsters back in Prince George's. She also says several safety precautions have been set in place.
We also are opening windows now that we're coming back in the spring to allow that fresh air circulation. We've set up classrooms to ensure that there are distancing between students every other seat and every other row, so that they are safe. While safety is on everyone's minds, the Mitten family says they're not too concerned about COVID.
After a whole year, I think it's been pretty scheduled and routine that they know what to do and what not to do, so I'm not too worried about it.
They're just glad to finally be back.
They're so excited to see their friends and see their teacher finally face to face, not on a screen, so we are all just a big ball of excitement.
Goldson says parents can resume virtual learning if they change their minds about in-person instruction. Maryland continues to see an uptick in coronavirus numbers. The state health department reports 1,200 new COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours. An additional 21 Marylanders have died from the virus. Currently, more than 1,200 residents are hospitalized with the coronavirus. Wear your mask, wash your hands, and continue to social distance. It's an everyday message from County Health Officer Dr. Ernest Carter. It's being delivered through social media, by text, and by robocalls. In a call going out today, Dr. Carter says more than 217,000 county residents have been vaccinated to date. Yet he says COVID-19 is still spreading, so it's important to get the vaccine.
But we can't let our guard down yet. COVID-19 is still spreading in Prince George's County and is making a lot of people sick. So we must continue to wear a mask, wash our hands, stay 6 feet away from people that don't live in our household, and pre-register to get vaccinated to protect our loved ones in our community. You can pre-register to get vaccinated at mypgc.us/proud to be protected.
Again, to register for the COVID-19 vaccine locally, visit mypgc.us/proud to be protected. Lawmakers in Annapolis send a package of police accountability bills to Governor Larry Hogan for his signature. The measures include a statewide use of force policy that prioritizes de-escalation and imposes criminal penalties for excessive use of force. Another provision would repeal the Law Enforcement Officers' Bill of Rights, replacing it with a statute that gives citizens a role in the disciplinary process. Other measures would restrict the use of no-knock warrants and mandates body-worn cameras. President Joe Biden says gun violence is at epidemic levels nationwide. Today, he unveiled a number of executive orders to address the dilemma. The executive actions will tighten regulations on ghost guns and pistol stabilizing devices. And the Justice Department is being called on to assist states in developing red flag laws.
Whether Congress acts or not, I'm going to use all the resources at my disposal as president to keep the American people safe from gun violence. But there's much more that Congress can do to help that effort. And they can do it right now. They've offered plenty of thoughts and prayers, members of Congress, but they passed not a single new federal law to reduce gun violence. Enough prayers. Time for some action.
Accordingly, I have directed ATF to begin work on an updated study of criminal gun trafficking, one that will take into account the fact that modern guns are not simply cast or forged anymore, but can also be made of plastic, printed on a 3D printer, or sold in self-assembly kits. We will evaluate how some of our best tools, including the National Integrated Ballistics Information Network and the National Tracing Center, are keeping up with the times.
Meantime, the president nominated David Chipman to lead the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. The agency has not had a permanent director in more than 6 years. You're watching CTV News. I'm Keisha Butts. We'll be back in a moment.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight, both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back, because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
Welcome back. A former treasurer for the West Lanham Hills Fire Department allegedly steals $100,000 from her employer. Amy Solomon was indicted last month, just one of many financial crimes in the county. State's Attorney Aisha Braveboy wants residents and organizations to know how to protect themselves.
If you are a member of a nonprofit, please ensure that more than one person is required in order to endorse checks, number one. In addition to that, there should be regular financial reports that are provided to the board of directors, annual or semi-annual or quarterly audits should be conducted. And if it is economically feasible, independent audits should be conducted at least annually.
Braveboy says financial caregivers for vulnerable adults should be appointed through the court system. That process will lay out reporting requirements for caregivers. Maryland's response to the pandemic in 2020 was among the best in the nation, according to a new report by the University of California, Berkeley. Maryland ranked 9th out of 50 states based on rates of infection, death, and testing. Vermont, Alaska, and Maine topped the list in their response to the virus. Meantime, the U.S. ranked among the worst globally, coming in at 162 out of 172 countries in the analysis. Maryland's supply of the COVID-19 vaccine has taken a significant hit this week. Governor Larry Hogan told reporters at yesterday's opening of a mass vaccination site in Greenbelt that the federal supply of the J&J vaccine to the states has been cut from 5.6 million this week to 600,000 nationwide. Hogan says he learned of the supply issues just days after being assured by the White House that there would be no problems with supply levels.
Which for us means about 80,000 fewer doses of Johnson & Johnson for this week. The good news is that thanks to FEMA coming in and doing 21,000 shots a week here, that's out of a federal supply, which we greatly appreciate, and some slight increases in Pfizer and Moderna, that gap is not going to be as wide. It's going to be we're going to be about 40,000 shorter than we expected. But we anticipate that we'll be able to manage all of the appointments that are scheduled and continue. It's a little bit of an issue we're scrambling to try to correct. I don't know the reason for it. Nobody's really given us a good explanation.
Hogan says by the end of April, the supply of the J&J vaccine should be back to normal. Well, Prince George's police are investigating a fatal shooting in Hillcrest Heights. Officers were called to the 2300 block of Anvil Lane around 6:30 this morning. When police arrived, they found a man suffering from gunshot wounds. He was pronounced dead on the scene. Anyone with information on this incident is asked to contact police at 1-866-411-TIPS. Two men are killed by an off-duty Pentagon police officer in Tacoma Park. The dead men are 32-year-old Dominique Williams of Hyattsville and 38-year-old James Johnson of District Heights. Investigators say it was around 5 a.m. yesterday when the off-duty Pentagon officer saw what appeared to be two men breaking into a car at Tacoma Overlook condominiums at 7333 New Hampshire Avenue. The officer says the men did not follow orders and instead hopped in the car and sped off. That's when the officer fired shots, striking both men. The two drove to Prince George's Hospital where they both died. The investigation continues. And we'll have more news in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Some Maryland prison inmates will soon have the opportunity to get a degree from a prominent university. Georgetown University is expanding its Prison Scholars Program to the state. The program is expected to begin next academic year and will offer liberal arts degrees to 25 people. Inmates must have a high school or GED diploma to qualify. Classes will be taught by Georgetown faculty at the Patuxent Institution in Jessup. Indigenous poets offer inspiration as they recite poems of resilience, reflecting on months of tribulations due to the pandemic. The National Museum of the American Indian begins celebrating National Poetry Month with readings from 4 Native Americans, including a U.S. Poet Laureate.
We have 4 different poets. Joy Harjo is a National Poet Laureate, and her poems, look back kind of on different topics related to Native issues, but I mean, a lot of it is resilience. She talks about the lands that her people have been removed from, but they're still here. And then we have an activist, Jamaica Osorio, who's been working to protect Hawaiian, sacred lands, Mauna Kea. Natalie Diaz is another poet that we have from New Mexico, and a lot of her poems look at tribulations that, whether it's tribulations that she herself has gone through or people in her community have gone through. The last poet we have is Kealoha, also Hawaiian, Native Hawaiian. And yeah, I mean, his poems as well, very inspirational. So all of these poets, for different aspects of their poetry is inspirational and empowering in different ways.
The event runs from April 9th through the 30th. For more information, go to americanindian.si.edu. Well, let's get a quick check on our 3-day weather forecast. Tonight, cloudy with a chance of showers and a low around 50. Friday, cloudy with a high near 58 and a low around 53. Saturday, mostly cloudy with a high near 71 and a low around 59. Sunday, partly sunny with a daytime high near 76 and an evening low around 52 degrees. And now for the community calendar. The Prince George's County Cultural Arts Study is inviting residents to join the discussion around art and community connectivity. The meeting will focus on ways to improve our area's transit locations using art. Representatives want to hear your input on areas that could use more creative accessibility options. The event is tonight from 7 until 8:30 p.m. Register through pgparks.com. And that wraps up our CTV News update. Join us again tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. Have a good night and stay safe.